The morning sun hung low over the city, casting golden streaks across the glass facade of Pinnacle Trust Bank. The building stood like a monument to ambition, tall, imposing, its mirrored windows reflecting the hustle of downtown streets below. Inside, the air was crisp, laced with the faint hum of wealth, polished marble floors, the soft clink of coins being counted, and the muted tones of classical music drifting from hidden speakers. Marcus Tate stepped through the revolving doors at 9:45 a.m. His polished loafers clicking against the stone with purpose. He adjusted the lapels of his charcoal suit, a subtle flex of confidence he'd earned through years of grit and grind. Today wasn't just any day. It was the day he'd been working toward for over a decade. Marcus carried a slim leather satchel under his arm, its contents meticulously prepared, financial projections, client testimonials, and a proposal that could change everything. At 10 a.m. he had an appointment with Eleanor Grayson, the branch manager of Pinnacle Trust, to secure a business loan that would catapult his tech startup, Horizon Innovations, into the big leagues. He'd called ahead twice to confirm. He'd triple-checked the numbers. He was ready. The lobby was a cathedral of quiet efficiency. Tellers in crisp uniforms moved with robotic precision, while men and women in tailored suits darted between glass-walled offices, their voices low and urgent. Marcus approached the reception desk, where a young woman with a sleek ponytail and a name tag reading Clara sat typing. Her eyes flicked up briefly, then back to her screen. "Good morning," Marcus said, his voice steady but warm. "Marcus Tate. I have a 10 a.m. meeting with Eleanor Grayson." Clara's fingers paused mid-keystroke. She glanced at him again, her expression unreadable, then tapped at her keyboard. "Tate, yes, I see you here. Please take a seat. She'll be with you shortly." Marcus nodded, stepping back toward a row of leather chairs near a towering indoor fountain. The water trickled in a soothing rhythm, a stark contrast to the tension he felt simmering beneath his calm exterior. He wasn't nervous, he'd pitched to venture capitalists, negotiated with suppliers, and bootstrapped his company from a one-room office to a team of 12. But this meeting? This was the tipping point. A $2 million loan would mean new hires, a second office, and a real shot at competing with the giants in the tech world. He sat, placing his satchel beside him, and checked his watch, 9:55 a.m. Early, as always. He liked being prepared, liked controlling what he could in a world that often felt stacked against him. The minutes ticked by. At 10:05, he glanced toward the reception desk. Clara was on the phone, her voice too low to catch. No movement from the offices beyond the frosted glass partition. He told himself it was fine, banks were busy places. Delays happened. By 10:15, though, the lobby's rhythm started to gnaw at him. A man in a pinstripe suit strode in, briefcase swinging, and approached Clara. "No appointment," he said casually, "but tell Eleanor it's Tom Reynolds." Within 3 minutes, a junior banker appeared, all smiles, and whisked him through the glass doors. Marcus's jaw tightened slightly, but he stayed composed. Maybe Reynolds was a VIP. It didn't mean anything. At 10:30, a woman in a red blazer swept in, her heels clicking like gunfire. She leaned over the desk, chatting with Clara like they were old friends. "Eleanor's expecting me," she said, waving a manicured hand. Clara nodded, and moments later, the same junior banker escorted her inside. Marcus's fingers drummed against his satchel. He'd been here 45 minutes now. His appointment was 30 minutes overdue. He stood, smoothing his tie, and returned to the desk. "Excuse me," he said, keeping his tone even. "Can you check on Ms. Grayson's availability? I've been waiting a while." Clara looked up, her eyes narrowing slightly, as if his question were an inconvenience. "She's with a client. It won't be long." She turned back to her screen, dismissing him without another word. Marcus exhaled slowly and returned to his seat. The fountain's trickle was starting to feel like mockery. He watched as more people flowed in, a middle-aged man with a golf tan, a young couple in designer coats, all greeted warmly by Clara, all ushered inside within minutes. By 11 a.m., he'd been waiting an hour. His appointment was a distant memory, replaced by a growing realization: this wasn't a delay. This was something else. He wasn't invisible. People saw him sitting there. Clara glanced his way occasionally, her expression blank. A teller met his eyes once, then quickly looked away. But no one called his name. No one acknowledged the time slipping by. At 11:30, an older woman in a fur-trimmed coat arrived, laughing with Clara about a weekend gala. She didn't even sit down before being led to the back. Marcus's grip tightened on his satchel. He'd built his company on discipline, on outworking everyone else. He'd faced rejection, skepticism, and outright disrespect before. But this quiet, deliberate erasure, stung in a way he hadn't expected. He stood again, this time with purpose, and approached the desk. "Clara," he said, his voice low but firm, "I've been here since 9:45. It's 11:45 now. 2 hours. Is there a reason I'm still waiting?" Clara's lips pursed, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. "I told you, she's busy. These things happen. Please be patient." "Patient," Marcus repeated, letting the word hang. "I watched 8 people go in ahead of me. Some didn't even have appointments. So tell me, what's the holdup?" For the first time, Clara faltered, her cheeks flushing faintly. I'll check again," she stammered, picking up the phone. Marcus didn't move, his gaze steady. He wasn't angry, not yet. But he was done being invisible. As Clara murmured into the receiver, the glass doors behind her swung open. 3 figures emerged, their presence shifting the air in the room. 2 men and a woman, all in impeccable suits, their strides confident and commanding. Clara froze mid-sentence, her eyes widening. Marcus turned slightly, catching the moment her face changed. Panic flickered there, then something deeper, something like dread. The woman at the front stopped, her sharp eyes scanning the lobby before landing on Marcus. Her expression softened into a smile, warm and genuine. "Marcus Tate," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "I didn't expect to see you waiting out here." Marcus straightened, recognition dawning. This wasn't just any executive. This was Vivian Hargrove, Pinnacle Trust's chief operating officer, and someone who knew exactly who he was. Vivian Hargrove's voice cut through the lobby like a blade, sharp and precise, yet laced with a warmth that disarmed the tension. She stepped forward, her navy suit pristine, her silver hair pulled into an elegant chignon. Behind her, the 2 men, board members, Marcus assumed, watched with quiet curiosity. Clara's phone slipped slightly in her hand, her earlier composure crumbling as she fumbled to hang up. "Vivian," Marcus said, extending a hand. "Good to see you too." His tone was calm, professional, but beneath it lay a current of relief. He'd met Vivian 2 years ago at a tech summit, where she'd been a keynote speaker. They'd spoken briefly about Horizon Innovations, and she'd been impressed enough to exchange cards. He hadn't expected her to remember him, but clearly, she did. Vivian's handshake was firm, her gaze steady. "What are you doing out here? I'd have thought Eleanor would have rolled out the red carpet for you by now." Her tone was light, but there was an edge to it, a question buried in the humor. Marcus glanced at Clara, whose face had gone pale, then back at Vivian. "I've been waiting for my 10 a.m. appointment. Seems there's been a delay." Vivian's brow arched, her smile fading slightly. "A delay?" She checked her watch, a sleek gold piece that gleamed under the lobby lights. "It's nearly noon." "That's not a delay, that's a disgrace." She turned to Clara, her voice dropping an octave. "Where's Eleanor?" Clara swallowed hard, her fingers trembling as she reached for the phone again. She's She's in her office. I was just about to. Get her out here, Vivian said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Now. Clara nodded frantically, dialing with shaky hands. The two board members exchanged a look. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with salt and pepper hair, smirked faintly, as if he sensed a storm brewing. Marcus stood still, his satchel at his side, watching the scene unfold. He didn't need to say more. Vivian's presence had shifted the power in the room, and he could feel it. Moments later, Eleanor Grayson emerged from behind the glass partition. She was a tall woman, mid-50s, with a severe bob and a navy blazer that matched her clipped demeanor. Her heels clicked with authority, but her expression faltered when she saw Vivian and the board members. "Vivian," she said, forcing a smile. "I didn't know you were stopping by today." "Clearly," Vivian replied, her voice dry. "Eleanor, why has Marcus Tate been waiting 2 hours for a meeting you scheduled?" Eleanor's smile tightened, her eyes flicking to Marcus, then back to Vivian. "There must have been a mix-up. We've been swamped this morning, unexpected walk-ins, urgent client needs. I was just about to see him." Marcus tilted his head slightly, his silence louder than words. He'd heard the excuses before, the polite deflections, the vague apologies. But Vivian wasn't buying it. She stepped closer to Eleanor, her voice low but cutting. "A mix-up? 8 people went ahead of him, Eleanor. Some without appointments. Does that sound like a mix-up to you?" Eleanor's composure cracked, her hands clasping in front of her. I wasn't aware of the extent of the delay. Clara should have informed me sooner." Clara's head snapped up, her mouth opening to protest, but Vivian raised a hand, silencing her. "Don't pass this off. You're the manager. You set the tone here. Marcus is one of the most promising entrepreneurs in this city, and you've kept him cooling his heels like he's begging for a favor. Explain that." The lobby had gone still. Tellers paused mid-transaction, clients glanced over from the seating area. Eleanor's face flushed, her lips pressing into a thin line. "I assure you, it wasn't intentional. We prioritize based on..." "Based on what?" Vivian interrupted, her eyes narrowing. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you prioritized everyone but the man who's built a company from nothing, who's here with a proposal that could bring Pinnacle millions in returns. So tell me, what's the criteria?" Eleanor faltered, her words catching in her throat. Marcus watched, his expression neutral, but inside, a fire burned. He'd spent years proving himself, late nights coding in his apartment, pitching to investors who dismissed him with a glance, fighting for every scrap of opportunity. He didn't need Vivian to fight this battle for him, but damn if it didn't feel good to see someone else call it what it was. Before Eleanor could muster a response, the broad-shouldered board member stepped forward. "Let's take this inside," he said, his voice gruff but calm. "Marcus, join us. We'd like to hear what you came here to say." Marcus nodded, picking up his satchel. As he followed Vivian and the board members through the glass doors, he caught Eleanor's eye. Her face had changed, gone was the cool authority, replaced by a mix of shame and fear. She trailed behind, her steps slower now, as if she knew the ground beneath her was shifting. The conference room was a stark contrast to the lobby, mahogany walls, a long table flanked by leather chairs, and a view of the city skyline that stretched to the horizon. Vivian gestured for Marcus to sit at the head of the table, a small but deliberate move. Eleanor lingered near the door, her posture stiff. "Marcus," Vivian said, settling into a chair beside him, "tell us about Horizon Innovations. No interruptions. No delays. You've got the floor." Marcus opened his satchel, pulling out his proposal. For the next 30 minutes, he spoke about the app his team had developed, a platform that streamlined supply chains for small businesses, about the contracts he'd secured with local manufacturers, about the vision he had to scale it nationally. His voice was steady, his facts airtight. The board members listened, nodding occasionally, their skepticism giving way to interest. When he finished, Vivian leaned back, a smile tugging at her lips. "That's one hell of a pitch," she said. "Why hasn't this crossed my desk before?" Marcus glanced at Eleanor, who stood silently near the wall. "Good question," he said simply. The room fell quiet, the weight of his words settling over everyone. Vivian turned to Eleanor, her expression hardening. "We'll talk later," she said, her tone final. Then, to Marcus, "Stay. We're not done with you yet." The conference room buzzed with a new energy as Marcus sat back, his proposal spread across the table. The board members, Vivian, the gruff man named Harold, and a quieter woman named Diane, leaned forward, peppering him with questions. How scalable was the platform? What were the risks? What kind of ROI could Pinnacle expect? Marcus answered each one with precision, his confidence unshaken. He'd prepared for this moment, even if he hadn't expected it to unfold like this. Eleanor remained near the door, her arms crossed, her face a mask of strained neutrality. Every so often, her eyes darted to Vivian, then away, as if she were bracing for a blow. Marcus noticed but didn't dwell on it. His focus was on the opportunity in front of him, not the woman who'd tried to bury it. Harold scratched his chin, flipping through the financials. "You've got something solid here, Tate. I've seen a lot of startups crash and burn, but this has legs. Why come to us instead of a VC firm?" Marcus leaned forward, his hands clasped. "VCs want control. They'd gut my team, push for a quick exit. Pinnacle's got the capital I need and a reputation for backing long-term growth. I'm not here to flip this for a profit, I'm here to build something that lasts." Diane nodded, her pen tapping against the table. "I like that. Too many kids these days chasing unicorns. You're thinking legacy." Vivian smirked. "He's not a kid, Diane. He's a man who knows what he's doing." She turned to Marcus. $2 million's a big ask, but your numbers back it up. What's your timeline?" 6 months to expand the team, 12 to roll out phase 2, Marcus said. "We've got the framework. We just need the fuel." The room hummed with approval. Harold grunted, a sound that might have been a laugh. "Fuel, huh? I like him." He glanced at Vivian. "What do you think?" Vivian didn't hesitate. "I think we'd be fools not to back him. But I want more than a loan on the table." "Marcus, what if Pinnacle took a stake? 5% equity, advisory role. We'd open doors for you, clients, networks, the works." Marcus paused, weighing the offer. Equity was a big give, but Vivian's involvement could fast-track everything. 3%, he countered. "And I keep full control." Vivian's smile widened. "Deal." Eleanor shifted, her heels scuffing the carpet. "If I may," she said, her voice tight, "we'd need to run this through compliance, stress test the projections." "Enough," Vivian snapped, her patience gone. "You had 2 hours to vet this, Eleanor. You didn't. Step outside." Eleanor's mouth opened, then closed. She nodded stiffly and left, the door clicking shut behind her. Harold chuckled. "She's not having a good day." "She doesn't deserve one," Vivian said, her tone icy. She turned back to Marcus. "You're in. We'll draw up the papers. But I've got one condition, you work with me directly. No middlemen. No more waiting." Marcus nodded, a weight lifting off his shoulders. "I can do that." The meeting stretched another hour, hammering out details, terms, timelines, next steps. By the time they finished, the sun was high, flooding the room with light. Vivian stood, shaking Marcus's hand again. "Welcome to the Pinnacle family, Marcus. You've earned this. As he gathered his things, Harold clapped him on the shoulder. Hell of a story, kid. 2 hours in the lobby, and you still walked out on top. Takes guts. Marcus smiled faintly. Takes more than guts. Takes knowing your worth. He left the conference room, his satchel lighter somehow, and passed through the lobby. Clara avoided his gaze, her fingers busy at her keyboard. Eleanor was nowhere in sight. Outside, the city hummed with possibility, and Marcus felt it in his bones. This wasn't just a win. This was a beginning. 3 months later, Horizon Innovations' new office buzzed with life. The space was sleek but functional, open desks, whiteboard scribbled with code, and a corner where Marcus's team huddled over laptops, laughter mixing with the clack of keyboards. The loan, and Vivian's stake, had ignited a fire. They'd hired 10 new developers, signed 2 major clients, and were weeks away from launching Phase 2. Marcus stood by the window, watching the skyline, a quiet pride settling in his chest. His phone buzzed. A text from Vivian, board meeting today. You're on the agenda. Be here at 2. He grinned. She'd kept her word, no middlemen, no delays. Their partnership had become a force, her network opening doors he'd once had to pry open himself. At Pinnacle Trust, the lobby felt different this time. Clara's replacement, a cheerful man named Javier, greeted him warmly. Mr. Tate, they're waiting for you upstairs. No chairs, no waiting. Marcus rode the elevator to the executive floor, where Vivian met him with a nod. The boardroom was packed, 10 members, plus Eleanor, who sat at the far end, her face a careful blank. Vivian kicked things off. Marcus Tate's here to update us on Horizon Innovations. 3 months in, he's already exceeding projections. Let's hear it. Marcus stood, projecting his slides onto the screen. He walked them through the numbers: revenue up 40%, client retention at 95%, Phase 2 ahead of schedule. The room murmured approval. Diane asked about scalability, Harold grilled him on competitors. Marcus answered with the same clarity he'd brought to that first meeting, his voice a steady anchor. When he finished, Vivian stood. I said we'd back a winner, and we did. Marcus, you've got our full support. Whatever you need, you've got it. The board applauded, a rare sound in that room. Eleanor clapped too, her hands stiff, her smile forced. Marcus caught her eye, holding it for a moment. She'd been demoted after that day, still a manager, but no longer calling shots. Vivian had made sure of that. After the meeting, Vivian pulled him aside. You didn't just win them over, Marcus. You rewrote the rules. What happened in that lobby, it's not happening again. Not here. Marcus nodded. I didn't come to settle scores. I came to build something. And you did, she said. But don't think I've forgotten. You're a hell of a lot more than they gave you credit for. Back at his office, Marcus gathered his team. Pinnacle's all in, he told them. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about every kid out there who's been told to wait, to prove themselves twice over. We're showing them what's possible. That night, he stood alone by the window again, the city light stretching out like a promise. 2 hours in a lobby had tested him, but it hadn't broken him. It had forged him. And now, the world would see what he was made of.